Hi Aquarius, happy birthday and welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your February 2026 tarot reading. Thank you to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, and subscribed to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, as far as what we have in front of us, it's a 12 card spread with each card representing a house of the zodiac. Starting with your sign, Aquarius is the first house, all the way through to the 12th house, represented by Capricorn. And then once we get through all that, we'll pull an oracle card to put a bow on the reading. As far as the decks being used this month, as the main tarot deck, we have the Hermetic Tarot, and the Oracle deck, we have the Wisdom of the Oracle. We're actually going to start the reading off our own old astrology guys we have in front of us to get an idea of where your focus should be as far as that goes. Alright, we have Sagittarius. So Sagittarius for you guys is your 11th house of friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes. Astrologically speaking, it's a little quiet in that area of the zodiac right now, but it could just be saying you might have a focus on that area of life this month. Alright, we have the South Node, and the South Node is actually in Virgo currently, which is your 8th house of death, rebirth, intimacy, and investments. So yeah, could just be saying you might have a focus on releasing some things around that area of life, or at the very least shifting some of those things. And then we have 5. So 5th house energy for you guys is Gemini. That area of the zodiac is currently a bit quiet as well. I will say later in the year, your ruler, which is Uranus, will be moving into Gemini. But yeah, in general, 5th house points to romance, creativity, children. So could be some changes going on in that area of life for you guys as well. So we'll keep all that in mind as we go through the main spread. Okay, so first house, which in general points to personality, self-awareness. We have the 10 of Pentacles, which is Virgo energy, which is referred to as the Lord of Wealth. So yeah, so seeing this here could just be saying that maybe financially this is going to be a strong month for you guys, possibly something that you've been building over time as well. You know, in general, the 10 of Pentacles isn't like this overnight flash in the pan kind of thing. This is usually something that you've been working toward. So even if it's not just financial success, right, given that it's not necessarily pop up in your second house, could at the very least just be saying that you could be building skills, right, that ultimately will lead to improvement in that area of life for you guys. And for some of you, this could just be pointing to possibly some things that you've invested in the past paying off as well, even if those things are just your time and energy. All right, in the second house, which in general points to possessions and self-worth, we have the moon. So this is more of a financial energy here, and for you guys, your second house is Pisces, and we actually see the Pisces symbolism in the card as well. And there's plenty of energy going on within your second house. But this could just be saying that maybe you feel like things are a bit changeable in that area of life, right? So, for example, maybe the money comes in, but then it goes right back out. Things along those lines there. Or, you know, you might think you have less than you have, more than you have, but then those things come into more focus. And then when I do see the moon pop up in the spread as well, I do usually tell people to look out for the main lunar cycles that'll be at play over the month. So, right on February 1st, there's going to be a full moon in Leo, which is your 7th house. And then actually on the 17th, there's going to be a new moon eclipse in your sign. So definitely watch out for those two cycles in particular, as far as when you might see some changes in this area. Right. In the 3rd house, which generally points to communication, short journeys, and siblings, we have the 4 of Swords, which is a Libra energy. And this deck refers to it as the Lord of Rest from Strife. So yeah, this could just be saying when it comes to communications, you guys might be a little bit more withdrawn than usual. Some of that could just be due to the fact that we have Mercury moving primarily, it's currently in your sign, but on the 6th of February, it's going to move into Pisces and then eventually retrograde on the 26th in Pisces. So it's going to be in shadow for a good part of the month before the retrograde officially kicks off. So that could be part of what is helping you feel a little bit more withdrawn than usual this month. But that's what I see with that. And again, I viewed it as a bit of a positive, right? Where maybe you just feel like it's a needed withdrawal. So it could just be as simple as, given that we're still moving through your birthday cycle, right? Maybe a lot of people reaching out to you, hey, want to come out? Let's celebrate. Let's do this. Let's do that. And maybe you're enjoying that in the moment, but so you progress a little bit later in the month, you might be like, all right, I need to recharge. fourth house, which in general points to home roots and family, we have the Seven of Pentacles. So this is actually a Taurus energy here, which actually is your natural fourth house. And it says Lord of Success Unfulfilled. So yeah, seeing this here could just be saying maybe within your home environment or possibly within your family, you might feel like things are a little bit lacking, right? Maybe some things you've been working on aren't panning out the way that you'd hoped, at least not at this time. And again, that could just be at least partially due to, as we mentioned, the fact that your ruler, which is Uranus, is still moving through your fourth house until the end of April when it'll move into your fifth house of Gemini. So could just be some of the residual effects of that, right? Where maybe feel like things are a bit more shaken than you'd like them to be. All right, so moving to the fifth house, which the dice also pointed out as significant this month, we have the Knight of Cups. So this is Pisces energy here, and in this deck, it's referred to as the Lord of Waves and Waters. So at the very least, this has to be you're going to feel some creative sparks as we move through the month. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And even though your house of creativity is Gemini, which, like we said, is a bit quiet this month, seeing the Pisces energy here, like we said, Mercury will be moving through Pisces. So Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So it could just be one of those things where, you know, the practical, tangible things might not be flowing too easily for you guys this month, but at the same time, your creativity might hit some sparks. And that might be part of why you're withdrawing too, right? To strike while the iron's hot as far as that goes. In the sixth house, which in general points to health, work, daily routines, we have the universe. So this is the equivalent of the world in most tarot decks, but usually it points to energies of completions, karmic cycles wrapping up, and in this deck it's referred to as the Great One of the Night of Time. So bit of a dramatic name, right? But yeah, the world does tend to be a pretty big moment, so it could just be one of those things where for some of you, like we said, maybe within your work life, you're wrapping something up, and maybe that's why we're seeing the Ten of Pentacles in the first house. For others of you, could just be saying maybe your daily routines are switching up because now you're shifting more towards focusing on creative aspects of your life. So that's the main thing there. But either way, whichever particular part of the equation it fits into there, I feel like this is saying that this is karmically just something that's naturally playing itself out, and the timing's right for it to do so. All right, so in the seventh house, which in general points to partnerships, contracts, relationships, we have the Hermit. So Virgo energy here. So yeah, it's good to just be saying that when it comes to those things, you're feeling a little bit more withdrawn, right? Which we saw that somewhat looking at the third house of communication being a bit more of a withdrawn energy as well. Like we said, the Virgo energy in your first house too, maybe it's saying that you're just a little bit more withdrawn than usual, and maybe even as we're still progressing through your season, you might still be a little bit more sociable, but again, as we start to move more toward Pisces season at the very least, you might just be feeling a little bit more withdrawn, keeping to yourselves for the most part this month. Doesn't have to be a bad thing, of course, right? Hermit energy is not a negative by in of itself, but could just be saying that's the energy you're feeling. All right, so for the eighth house, which represents, as we mentioned, death, rebirth, intimacy, and investments, we have the King of Wands. So this is actually a Leo energy here, which is your natural seventh house popping up in your eighth house energy. So seeing this here, in this deck it's referred to as the Prince of the Chariot of Fire. Seeing this here could just be saying that when it comes to that area of life, right? So like I mentioned when we were looking at the Ten of Pentacles, I was saying maybe some investment that you might have made in the past might be paying off for you guys. Whether, like I said, of course, at the basic level could be financial, but like we said, also your time, your energy, your resources in any way could just be paying off for you guys this month. And that's what this King of Wands energy could be representing there. And this also does make me think of the fact that, especially given that the South Node popped up for you guys, which is currently in your eighth house, it will later in the year be moving into Leo, which is your seventh house. So maybe over the next 6 months, you might see some shifts around that area of life as well. All right, so for the ninth house, which in general points to philosophy, higher learning, and foreign affairs, we have the Ten of Swords. So this is actually Gemini energy. which is your natural fifth house. But seeing this here, it's referred to as the Lord of Ruin. I feel like this is saying at the very least this might not be the ideal time to discuss those kinds of topics with people, right? Like, oh, this is my life philosophy, right? Or maybe your religious beliefs, things along those lines there, because it could just escalate into conflicts unnecessarily. Or even just anxiety, right? Because maybe people might come away feeling like their beliefs are on a shaky foundation. So it could just be one of those things where it could just be best to avoid it. And like I said, maybe for some of you that could be part of why we're seeing a bit more of a withdrawn energy for you guys as far as communication goes this month too. But yeah, aside from that, could just be saying at the very least, just be a little bit mindful. Like if you do engage in foreign affairs, right? Even if it's as simple as trying to plan a vacation currently at a long distance. Not that the vacation itself would be an issue, right? But just be extra careful around the planning of it, things along those lines there. All right. In the 10th house, which in general points to career and social status, we have the King of Pentacles. So this is actually Taurus energy popping up again here. And in this deck, it's referred to as the Prince of the Chariot of Earth. So definitely a positive energy to see here, especially if, like I said, it seems like some of you might be a bit more withdrawn this month, maybe focusing a little bit more on yourselves than normal. So if you're trying to work on something with a bit more of a creative nature, and maybe you're just keeping yourselves to do so, given that Taurus is your natural fourth house ruler, and seeing this play out and pop up in your 10th house could just be saying that whatever it is you're working on can actually lead to an increase in public recognition and status in the future. All right, in your 11th house, we have the High Priestess. So 11th house energy for you guys, well, let's just say that in general, 11th house is friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes. So to see the High Priestess here could just be saying that intuitively you might just really pick up on those around you are feeling this month, and vice versa, right? And I also feel like this is saying that as you interact with people, it's really going to tap in with you and improve your intuition as well. So maybe someone will say something, right? And intuitively you'll pick up that there's more to it, but you could actually use it in your favor. Not against the other person, I'm saying, but they might just say something casually that might seem like just a throwaway statement, but it might be meant to hit your ears because there's something deeper behind it that you would pick up on and actually be able to use to your advantage down the line. So that's primarily what I'm seeing coming up with that. And yeah, so 11th house energy for you guys is actually Sagittarius, which you saw come up with the dice as well. So could just be saying that even though it looks like you might be a bit more withdrawn in general this month, in those times you might spend with others, definitely be on the lookout for something like that, right? Where, like I said, someone might say something not even realizing as they're saying it that there's some deeper meaning behind it that you'll pick up on, but at the same time it'll pay off for you nonetheless. All right, and in the 12th house, which in general 12th house points to spirituality, blind spots, and mental health, we have the Knight of Swords. So yeah, seeing this here could just be saying that for a lot of you, you might just have a lot of ideas coming to you intuitively. Like we said, it could just be one of those things, and that could be part of why you're withdrawing too, right? Because you're usually pretty self-aware as Aquarians in general. So it could just be one of those things where you might just realize, like, okay, I have a lot of things bouncing around in my head here. Maybe I need to withdraw and try to sort these things out, right? But yeah, this could also just be saying that, again, I feel like this is tying into what I was saying with the 11th house as far as you do converse with people, even if you do feel a little bit more withdrawn than usual, just try to really keep an ear open when you're having those conversations with people, no matter how limited the basis, because again, I feel like there's something that's going to hit your ears that's actually going to benefit you significantly this month. All right, and bottom of the deck, we have the Seven of Swords. So this actually is an Aquarius energy. And in this deck, it's referred to as the Lord of Unstable Effort, right? So keeping in mind that, like I said, yeah, it seems like you guys are going to be a little bit withdrawn this month. So I feel like this is saying, Seven of Swords traditionally is pointed to as an energy of deception. Here I'm getting it's more of a self-deception thing, right? And when we say that, I feel like it's just more of saying that don't overexert yourself, right? Like, be realistic about what you can and can't do, and try not to be hard on yourself either way, right? If you end up accomplishing less than you thought you could, that's fine, right? With the more of unstable effort here, it's saying that, yeah, all the energies we discussed, that could be part of what's at play there, especially like we said, think about the Mercury retrograde energy coming up. The fact that you guys are going to have an eclipse in your sign right in the middle of February, so could just be saying, yeah, just ride the wave and try not to be too hard on yourselves. All right, so like we mentioned earlier, we'll pull an oracle card now to put a bow on the reading. So we're going to pull a card from Wisdom the Oracle here. I'm just going to give this a few more shuffles, and then we'll put the deck down, and I'll cut the deck and pull a card that way. Nope. Almost had one flip out there. Okay, so we'll take this card here. Let me get this out of the way, and we'll see what you got. All right, we have the Fates. Sorry, get that to focus. There we go. There's the artwork, and the number is 17. So we'll see what this has to say. At the very least, that made me think of what we were talking about with the universe, right? The world card, which is a pretty significant cycle, but we'll see what it says. All right. Essential meanings says fate, karma, acceptance that there are things you cannot change, and knowing what those things are. The Oracle's message. The Serenity Prayer sums up the meaning of this card. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There are things in life you will never have control over. The conditions brought on by the evolution of the collective, by nature, by your past experiences may be fated, preordained by spirit for a greater purpose you cannot understand in this lifetime. It may not be in your cards to understand why certain events occurred, but you can accept the mystery and work with what those events in your current circumstances have to teach you. This is the wisdom contained in the Serenity Prayer. So yeah, reading that message kind of made me connect it up between the universe and the 6th house, and then the 10 of Swords and then 9th house, right? Because it makes me think of the fact that you guys are generally considered humanitarians, right? And then if we think about some of the things going on in the world currently, quite far from humane, right? So it could just be as simple as that, right? Where you're like, your philosophies around things, you're like, okay, it should be so much simpler. People keep making it complicated, right? Maybe that'll throw you for a loop this month, but hopefully that message resonated. The relationship message says other people are who they are. You can't change them. The challenge is to accept them as they are and not try to make them otherwise to suit you. This is a time to look at how you attempt to mold people to fit your view of how they should be, so you can remain in a relationship and avoid discomfort. What if who they are, and whatever is happening between you and them in this situation is perfect from the perspective of spirit. Now's the time to accept what you cannot change, even if it means that you honor yourself, spirit, and the other person by moving on. Love unconditionally for each of us on our own journey, and we cannot direct that of another. Be aware that this relationship is indeed fated, and you are meant to evolve into a better version of yourself as a result of it. So yeah, definitely a pretty strong message there. And we did see the Hermit in your 7th house, and like we mentioned, right at the start of February, there's going to be a full moon in your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. So yeah, so for some of you, maybe you are potentially weighing the decision of walking away from a relationship. If that's the case, hopefully that message resonated. All right. And lastly, the prosperity message says your experiences concerning prosperity and abundance are beyond your personal control right now. You are being invited to accept what is unreservedly. This could be a temporary situation seemingly thrust upon you by outside forces, but there is an underlying purpose you can't see that has been determined by the fates. It could be a situation you are not prepared for, and you may not understand how it will benefit you in a moment. Do not fight the situation. Ride it out and see where it leads. Surrender to it, and the serenity you need to make good choices from here on out will be given to you. You will indeed flourish. So yeah, reading that message there for sure makes me think once again of, like we said, the universe or the world card popping up in your 6th house there. So hopefully that message resonated for you guys as well. So once again, happy birthday. we'll wrap up there, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.